Before I was saved, Jesus was always something that would be socially convenient for me. He couldn't be convicting. He couldn't get in the way of anything that I wanted to do or any of my aspirations, but he could be someone that could make me feel good when I needed a pat on the back or if I needed to fit in certain social settings. But the truth was, I was really always my own God. And that led me to a very nasty brand of atheism where my life was about not just convincing myself that God was not real, but convincing everybody else that I met that God wasn't real either. And if I could do that and do it well, then I could really get anyone to do anything that I wanted once they had no one to answer to but themselves and to me. From the outside, it looked like I really had everything together. I had a good job, I had good grades, I was doing well pretty much in every area of life. So I started to ask the question, is there something that I've missed? Because it's got to be better than this. And so I went back to people that I had known for years in the church who had none of the things that I had and seemed to be very happy. And I was trying to figure out what it was about them. Surely it couldn't just be this belief that Jesus was a real person and that God was a real entity that was making them happy. And I found the answer to a lot of those questions, if not every single one of them, revolved around I was created for a reason. And my happiness doesn't depend on what I can achieve for myself down here in this world, but it depends on what I can achieve for God. So when I finally started to come back around to the church, it's kind of an interesting story. I'd become very good at pretending to be something I was not over my early adolescent years, and when I got engaged to my wife, her family had always gone to church, to Christ Church, as a matter of fact, at least for the past decade before that. And I wanted to show them that I could be a good Christian boy and go through all the motions, so I started attending Christ Church with them. And at that time, we had to go through the new members class early on, and in doing that, at the end of the class, the guy that was leading it, James Brummett, clapped his hands and said, "Okay, who's getting baptized?" And everyone in the class raised their hand, and I didn't want to be the only one that didn't raise my hand. And so I did. My initial expectation was that there would be a before and after moment that would be no more than a box that had been checked in the procedure of gaining membership to the church. And I was delighted to find that something fundamentally inside of me, in my worldview, in the way that I thought about everything I did and other people and even myself, all of it changed instantly. It was literally a miraculous event in my life. You know, everybody asks for a miracle. If they just had a miracle, they would believe. For me, it kind of worked backwards. I had to take that step of faith in getting baptized, humorously to avoid embarrassment, and the miracle happened. And everything in my life changed. I see nothing the same way that I did before I came back to Christ. When I run into people who are like how I used to be, that is the stubborn atheist unbeliever who's kind of living life as their own God, I think the greatest words of wisdom that I can give them is that someday we will have to look back and deal with our current selves. And I would just ask people to think about that before it gets too late in life. Because before Christ, I just left a wake of destruction in all the relationships in my life. And if someone could have come into my world and stopped that and turned me around more forcefully and sooner, I would have been so appreciative, and I would have done so much less damage in my life. So my advice to people who think they're too smart for God is that they better wise up and start thinking about what they really think that they know. Because I found that the more we begin to know, the stupider we get. And that was a powerful revelation for me.